in the mind. My name is Khalid Mahmood. Today's topic is the Ukraine conflict. After the Ukraine conflict, the new world. My guest this week is once again Thomas Pochari. He writes on World Affairs Monthly. Hi Tom, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Like I said last time, I'm glad I'm not in Ukraine. That old
Uh,
joke. Yeah.
okay, let's make a start. Tom, you recently tweeted and you made a prediction that the USA will be destroyed. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that in relation to Ukraine or is that in relation to something else? And secondly, how do you see the Ukraine conflict going? In which direction do you think that is going? So you have two questions, and you can
Okay.
start.
Yeah. Yeah. How do I know the United States is going to be destroyed? That's what you're saying, asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Just explain your tweet,
Right.
and
Right.
also explain to us, what you think about how the conflict in Ukraine is going so
Okay.
far. So,
So I will warn the audience once again. I'm going to be pretty frank and brutally frank, and so I'm just going to say what I really think. Now, and these thoughts have been building up in my brain for about 40 years, probably even longer. So I've come to realize that you have, a population of mammals, in our case, human mammals, right? The population builds up because we are prosperous. So well, I'm sorry, we are very successful at understanding things. And so the population gets large and too large. And so the reason the United States did so well in the early days is because the place was empty, basically. There's a lot of arable land. Then we discovered crude oil and other hydrocarbons. And of course, the indigenous population was very small and they were pretty much exterminated. And then, of course, there were a lot of immigrants. So, the manpower built up very fast. So natural wealth plus manpower, and of course, white people, Caucasian people, not from Africa, not from Latin America. You're very industrious white people, Caucasians. And so the fatal mistake was to allow these Ashkenazi Jews to come over in 1880 and millions of them. So the problem we have now is Ashkenazi Jews. They focus on what they do, what they like to do. It's a little complex to explain, but I think I do a good job. So the fatal mistake the United States made was in about 1880 to 1920. The millions of these Ashkenazi Jews came over from the Pale of Settlement, basically Russia, Ukraine, Ukraine, Poland, this area. They came over here and they are not interested in working. They're kind of like a parasitic class of people. I don't know, it's pretty weird the way they ended up in history, being ostracized and excluded. But the fact is, they were, and so they're just antisocial basically. And then they focus on like consumption. They want everybody to consume because that's where they prosper. They loan money to people. So if Mahmoud or Pachari wants to buy a house, you have to borrow money, and there's
mhm.
really no option. And the interest payments will be half the value, half the money you paid. So okay, so the fundamental problem is the secondary sources of economic growth and development, which is debt business, which is commerce, global commerce, and which is central banking power. Those three are petering out. So it's the end of America. We cannot continue any longer. It's finished. The primary sources, energy for power, ideas and knowledge and technology for efficiency, and the cycle for adaptation, those petered out long ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, per capita. So the United States really doesn't have the global power it did 40, 50 years ago. We had a lot of crude oil like Russia has today. Russia has all the crude oil. They can increase their production. They have productive capacity beyond belief. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is kind of all jumbled up, but the United States was this awesome bourgeois power until the Jews started transforming it into this third world type thing where no one wants to exploit and enslave blacks or Africans, African Americans. But the fact is, they're not very productive. And the fact is, it's mestizos are not very productive. It's only the white people who've been really productive and initiated civilization. So when the Jewish people, these Ashkenazi, came over, they undermined that. And now we're at the end of the road. Now, if we had more oil and gas, if we had more, the Jews would be in good shape. But we don't. We don't. So it's finished. It's all
But
over.
do you not see the problem is that United States is probably a nation that consumes at such a pace
Yeah.
that is nowhere to be seen in the rest of the world. I mean, the consumption the United States
Yeah.
makes is probably outpaces anybody else. I mean,
Of course.
it's way
Of
too much, and that kind of
consumption.
consumption is not,
Yes.
um, in the long run, it's not no, possible.
That's right. It can't be sustained. Well, remember one of our interviews, I explained why the United States went up so quickly, right?
Mhm.
So we were in 1945 the predominant. We had exclusive power over everybody. We were exclusive in the exclusive club of nations. No one could even compete with us because everything was destroyed. Now, 45 years later, 50 years later, 70 years later, it's pretty clear that we can't really sustain that. We have this extraordinarily high standard of living, and these Ashkenazi Jews. The problem with the Jews is that they're crazy. They're kooks. Right? They're just not rational. You can't deal with them. You can't talk to them. They just do their crazy shit over and over again. Nothing can be done to stop them except war. Now, remember, Adolf Hitler and these guys, they were quite brilliant. They really knew what they were doing. However, they weren't really that scrupulous because they should have known that the Jews would have the oil here. So they embarked on this total war, and they were wiped out because they didn't have crude oil. All I'm saying though is that they understood the danger of debt. And the first thing the Nazi Party did was eliminate the debt, and they closed down the Jewish banks, and they closed down all this usury stuff. And I know you as a Muslim understand that the usury is really dangerous because it basically enslaves everybody. And then you have this. There's no end to it. First you might use it to build your business, but then before you know it, you're using it to buy prostitutes, to buy liquor, and to buy everything. You become a debt slave. So it's really all about Ashkenazi Jews. And when I see this Naftali Bennett, Israeli prime minister, I'm going to speak bluntly. He looks like a creep. He looks like a criminal. Many Jews do have that look. He looked like he was defecating in his pants after a 3-hour meeting in Moscow with Mr. Putin. So we know things are going very badly, very bad. Within 2 or 3 years, the United States will be close to collapse. I argue. Now, one thing is clear: if the United States, led by all these crazy Jews, want to escalate this, I'm quite confident that the Russian leadership, led by Mr. Putin, will elect to use nuclear weapons against the major cities in the United States. I have no doubt. And maybe there'll be retaliation. Well, it doesn't really matter. The United States will be totally destroyed, and then maybe there will be a follow up on the installations, the nuclear silos. Everybody knows where they are. The Russians don't use those silos. They have mobile launching vehicles. So and the Chinese have mobile launching vehicles as well. So unless we can get oil, unless we can get bailed out by somebody, we're finished. It's all over. Now, I'm not really too worried about myself and my family here, but we're pretty far away. We're in the rural areas. But the fact is, hyperinflation is usually associated with war. And unless these Jews back down, but see, you can't get them. Ashkenazi, they don't back down. They just do keep doing their crazy shit. I see Blinken talking to this guy Kuleba. They're both Jews. They're both Ashkenazi Jews. They're both crazy. They're both members of Mossad probably, and they are talking about sending aircraft from Poland into Ukraine. So I don't think the Russians will tolerate that for a minute. I told you they're going to carpet bomb. They're going to kill hundreds of thousands of people, and there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it. And then you have this black woman who's the UN ambassador at the United Nations. She's a complete dimwit. She doesn't know what. So we're We're just reeling from incompetence, total and utter incompetence, because Ashkenazi Jews. That's it. The bourgeoisie has been wiped out. They wiped out. They were wiping out the bourgeoisie in Germany and Bavaria, and they have wiped out the bourgeoisie, which was pretty powerful in the United States. Pretty powerful.
But a lot of analysts in the past I've read have attributed American power to the American dollar, okay,
Yeah,
and the petrodollar,
yeah,
okay. The world debt, the global debt, is still in the dollar,
that's right.
okay.
Yeah,
So as long as the dollar is strong, and America should be fine.
that's right. That's exactly right. Well, we talked
So
about that one.
where do you see the threats to the dollar coming from?
Well, like I said, I've told you these interviews we've done are excellent. I was going to praise myself. I think did a pretty good job. The debt is unpayable at this point. In fact, I would argue that we are probably printing money. Very likely, we're either close or we are printing money now to pay the debt service. So it's all over. Now, whether the public understands this soon or later or whatever, obviously the Ashkenazi Jews, they control all the media. You will never hear anybody talk like me on the media. They're all criminals. In fact, I'm just going to come out and say it. The Ashkenazi Jews are criminals. They're a criminal race, and they're going to destroy everything, everything. Now they think they're going to win. They're completely crazy. They took on Hitler, and look at what happened to them. They were wiped out. No, I
Now,
don't think.
recently there was an article. I don't know whether you saw it or not, about the Saudi prince,
Yeah.
right? And
No, I didn't see it.
he said that the Saudis may pull out their assets from America.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yes.
You saw that,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
How likely is that does he actually have the guts? Because as you also must remember that Trump said, okay, the Saudis
Right.
would not
It
last
last
even
a
two
week.
weeks.
Yeah.
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 So if they're not going to last 2 weeks without the Americans, how can they dare pull their assets out from America, or
Well,
even
so
mention
hard.
it?
Yeah, it's so hard to predict the future, but I can't really say. But clearly, the Saudi royal family, let's call them the king type family, uh, they're mostly incompetent. They're incompetent now, but they are realizing that the world is now moving out of this World War II Cold War structure, and they realize that if they don't prepare for that change, they're going to be stuck, right? So they're talking about it, but I don't know if they can really do it, because if they start selling like that, then everybody will wonder, okay, why are they selling? And it's, the selling starts to become a what do you call it, infectious. Everybody starts selling, and so if you're big and you start selling in the market, others are going to say, well, wait a minute, why is this big guy selling? And they're going to sell too. So that's why you have crashes. So I don't know I don't know that they're going to survive. I doubt it. They're just so incompetent beyond belief. So, I mean, if they were really competent, they would merge with the ordinary people the ordinary Arabs, and help them survive. But no, all they do is they have this dictatorship, oligarchic dictatorship, and they hoard all the wealth for themselves. So I think Osama bin Laden understood that was really a problem. So he went after him, but it's too early. It was too early. So, but yeah, the dollar. Remember, I told you the dollar's value is only a function of, at this point, a function of the belief in the American power. And once that American power looks like it's going down, people are going to dump the dollar, and it will probably fall pretty dramatically. It's going to be pretty amazing. And then the debt will explode. I mean, it's all over. So it's probably going to happen within a couple of years,
So
I'd say.
do you see the gold as being the future reserve currency?
Oh, definitely. I think gold. Well, the problem with gold though is that there's so many people that need a currency, and there's so little gold. So I don't know that gold can really function. It's going to be copper, probably copper and silver, because there's a lot more copper. I think there's 20 times more silver than gold, and 20 times more copper than silver. So those three precious metals will be used. The problem with the precious metals is that if you have Jews, typically Jews will want to cheat you, so they'll have they have fake gold. They'll cheat you, and you're going to need one of these XRF analyzers, which is kind of like an X-ray XRF analyzer. And right now they cost about $15,000. So if you want to trade and use gold or silver or copper, you're going to need to understand that what you're dealing with precious metal is actually authentic. So you're going to need one of those. And right now they're very, very expensive, but they'll probably be cheap. But that's the problem with precious metal. You're going to be cheated. And of course, most people may not cheat, but the Jews definitely will cheat. That's what they do. So that's the problem of Bitcoin. Depends on the grid, electricity, and I think you probably will have a combination of Bitcoin and grid, and and gold and precious metals. But copper definitely will. Most currency 700 years ago was copper. Copper with the penny, the U.S. penny was copper.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
copper is pretty abundant, and it's indestructible. Basically, we use it in the United States. I'm sure you use it there around the world. It's used for plumbing. It will
Mhm.
not corrode. And like I
Okay.
said, it's 20% more abundant about that than silver, and silver's 20% more abundant than copper. I mean, gold. So gold's just going to be so expensive. Only wealthy people will be able to own it.
Okay.
Gold will go to $200,000 an ounce. I predicted that about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And silver will go, I think silver will go to about $20,000 an ounce or $10,000 an ounce. And copper will go, will skyrocket. Copper will skyrocket the most in price. So copper right now, you buy by the ton or whatever, measured by the ton, it will go to a huge, huge price. I mean, it will skyrocket 1,000 times in price.
So is that the gold going expensive, or is that the fiat money losing their value?
I think the way you got to look at it is that suddenly it's not something losing its value. It's the return of a precious metal that was once used for currency is once again used for currency. So it's been devalued in price for a couple hundred years, about 150 years, 200 years, but now it's going to return as a very important um, currency or money, whatever you want to call it, something of value, right? That you can
Okay.
use to buy stuff. So I don't
Okay.
know. Your question again was the question again?
The question was that if the gold and the silver are going expensive,
Oh
is
yeah.
that because the metals are going expensive, or is that because the fiat money is losing their value?
Well, the fiat move both. I think for example, when you could expand your production and you could trade all over the world, and the primary sources of development, which I mentioned already, are expanding, and the secondary sources are also doing well, you're going to not need gold. You don't need gold. You're going to have money. But once those primary sources go down and the secondary sources also go down, you are going to be
What
starting
is
to be
what is money? What do you mean by money then? If gold
money,
is not money,
meaning
if the gold
okay,
is not
so
money, whatever the money is, it should have its own value, like
yeah,
gold. Gold is
right,
money, and gold has its own value.
right,
Okay,
but it's
so
relative. It's
but
relative. I mean,
Bitcoin is just a and it's not tangible. It's just a software. So
right.
that doesn't have its own value.
Right,
Okay.
but gold is valuable. That's true, intrinsic value. Okay, you can't destroy gold, but see, the characteristics of gold are such that, for example, if gold was $200,000 an ounce, which I think it will be at some point, you can put a tiny amount in your wallet and go anywhere you want in the world. The problem is you have it on your person, and they could expect your wallet and steal $200,000 with you if they get that 1 ounce, right? They could take it from you. And but if you have Bitcoin and only you know the password or whatever, and you have the wallet, they have to torture you to get it. Now they might, but
Yeah,
you
but if
could.
there's no electricity, you have no money either.
Okay, yeah, fine, fine. Like I said, you need the situation to be propitious or favorable. Right, you need electricity, but it's pretty cheap to build to make electricity. Pretty cheap.
Okay.
Yeah,
Going back to the what you said earlier about the World War II structure falling apart,
yeah.
let's go on to a little bit on the politics side. How do you see the structure, changing since the conflict in Ukraine has started?
Well, you were quite good, and I really want to praise you for mentioning Halford Mackinder. So Mackinder was this British guy who understood that really, if you could get control of Eurasia, you were going to be able to project power. And so I guess that's a simple way. Everybody can look him up on the net. He has a Wikipedia page. So what I'm simply arguing about the Cold War structure, World War II Cold War structure ending, is that the United States was able to project power from the Western Hemisphere into Eurasia, and with the power of the large population and with crude oil, right? Large population, crude oil, industrial power. And we did that successfully. But if we did not have crude oil, we wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have made the invasion of Normandy. The Nazi Party would have succeeded. So now we have a much depleted. I guess I don't know how you want to describe it, but the United States of America, because the Jews are here, and because we're running out of crude oil, we're debt. We got a debt implosion because of Jews and because of the lack of crude oil. We're going to be helpless to project power into Europe and Asia. Now we can still do it, but the fact is we're not really going to be able to be forceful and decisive. We're not going to, and so we're going to sit there watching. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now we could have a dictatorship. So say Jews establish a dictatorship and say, okay, nobody can drive, and they would use the 10 million barrels a day that we produce of oil, and they use it for the war. Yeah, that's it's conceivable, but I think it's highly unlikely, right? So we're going to watch China and Russia take over Eurasia.
Yes, and they're already kind of not doing that with the Belt and Road Initiative,
That's
and
right. That's right. The Chinese make everything, they manufacture everything, and the Russians have all the resources.
true.
So I don't think, the everything's going to change in the next 10 years, 5 years. It could be pretty quick. Once the United States, you mentioned the dollar, once the dollar does get sold off, like I mentioned the British pound, people can go listen to those interviews, but I can't repeat everything. But once the dollar does get sold off, it's finished. It's all over.
I think
And
the Russians and the Chinese are intending to do that
yeah,
because
yeah.
America
Well,
is using it as a weapon.
but but
So
see,
so will they.
Ted, they're not going to do that. It's going to happen naturally. No,
Hmm.
no. See, remember, they're not doing anything to anybody, really. They just are participating in the natural course of events, right? So
Yes.
the Jews did this to themselves. What's that so fascinating? They didn't have to do what they did in Germany. They didn't have to be Bolshevik in Germany. They could just shut their fucking mouth and be good little children and shut up and do their little pawn shop stuff or whatever the hell they're doing. Just kind of be lucid about what's going on. But they're doing the same thing here. They're not lucid. They're kooks. They're total kooks. And now the only reason they kind of dominate is because kooks can be pretty cunning, and they're incompetent. Eventually, they're incompetent, but they take over because the ordinary people are so unsophisticated, so illiterate. They're stupid. They just don't know anything, and they
Going
can't.
back onto Ukraine,
Yeah.
what are your predictions about Ukraine now,
Well,
as
I,
things
I
stand?
was I was hesitant to say too much in the last interview, but about the trajectory of this. But I think within a couple of weeks, the Russians will have pretty much wiped out any kind of resistance. They'll have killed, much of the soldiers, these Ukrainian irregular soldiers, which are probably mostly inept and untrained. You can't go to war without training. It's a joke. Now, if these weapons are coming over the border, the American weapons or European weapons are coming over the border, and they're getting resupplied. Okay, that could be pretty interesting, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case. So that's the big question. And you raised that issue when we were talking one day a couple of days ago. So if they get resupplied, yes, maybe. But even then, if I'm sorry, the Russians will have the ability to pretty much wipe out anyone they see on the ground with air power, and they can carpet bomb, they can use all sorts of weapons. They can basically wipe out much of the population that remains. I don't see how they can. The Ukraine is toast. It's finished. Anyway, Putin even said that once you go too far, there will be no Ukraine nation. It will be totally rebelized. See, that's what he was referring to. He said there will be no nation. I think basically I interpret that to mean that every building will be bombed out and destroyed. What are you going to do then, right?
But in the beginning, he said that it's just a special operation, which
Yeah.
people thought is going to be just a maybe 1 or day or 2 days operation. Is going to go there and come back. But now it's kind of no.
Well,
Um,
because this Jewish Ashkenazi Jew kook, believe it or not, he's a total kook. Zelensky, he's a drug addict, and he's like maybe bisexual or whatever. The guy's Zelensky's a total kook, and he's begging for weapons. It's all look, the whole thing's about Jews, Ashkenazi
mhm.
Jews. The whole thing's about Jews. Like, I mean, I'm just astounded by everybody in Congress, U.S. Congress, they're owned by these Jews. They're all owned by the Jews. They said we got to fight we got to go to war for Ukraine. I'm mind-boggling, Kevin. We're going to have a big war, obviously.
Okay.
And if the Jews want to go into this war, fine, let them do it. I mean, women are going to be in the war. I mean, come on,
Will the Polish jump in?
pardon me.
Will the Poland, will they jump in? Will they kind of
I
know?
don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure I can answer that question. I don't know.
Because
My hunch.
if they do, and that means that Putin will have to invade Poland as well,
Well, I don't think he will invade. He'll just bomb the hell out of them
which is same thing.
and then maybe later invade. But they don't have that much manpower. There's 130 million people in Russia.
Hmm.
Uh, maybe the Chinese might be involved at some point. I think the Chinese he might strike a deal with the Chinese and use the Chinese manpower. It's possible. The Chinese are pretty timid right now, but I think once it escalates, the Chinese might be brought in, and the Chinese have unlimited manpower.
Unlimited, as in the trained soldiers.
Well, yeah, exactly. They could bring 20 million soldiers to immediately.
Yeah, but America can actually bring in mercenaries from the Middle East and from Africa and everything, and throw them in there.
Well, yeah, but the we're gonna see a mobilization of labor. I guess I don't know. Soldiers are have to be paid, and the Arabs are all broke. I don't know. Nobody in the Arab world is going to be participating in this. It's going to be Chinese building stuff and the Russians soldiers and Russian competence and et cetera, and then the Americans are probably just going to watch. I don't know. I can't really predict the future, but I really don't see the United States responding. I think it's a lot of hot air.
What I don't know whether you saw this, but there was in the news that, or somebody tweeted that the Turks have allowed the Ukrainians, shared information with the Ukrainian intelligence to bring mercenaries from Syria to fight for the Ukrainians.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, Ukraine. Well, I'm sorry. Turkey is going to be invaded by Russia. That just confirms my opinion that Turkey is definitely allied with Israel. This Erdogan is an Israeli agent.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's with the Jew camp.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, not pretty sure. I'm 100%
Yeah, I doubt that, but no,
sure.
you have a different
He
opinion.
did. He did buy these S-400 anti-aircraft missiles.
Yeah, I
So
think what he's doing is trying to keep a very delicate balance, and he's on one side trying to keep the
yeah, that's true.
Russians
That's
happy and trying to keep the Ukrainians happy, trying to keep the NATO
yeah,
group happy, trying to keep the Africans happy, trying to keep the Arabs happy. So he's kind of a
yeah,
very delicate balance he's trying to do,
true.
and I don't know how long he will be able to hold on to it, but
Yeah,
sooner or later everything is going to collapse. I think.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree with you, but something will happen.
yeah. Well,
I mean, I think to some extent, this war sooner or later will consume Turkey. I
yeah,
agree with
well,
that.
yeah. So you're
But
coming around to, yeah, yeah. I think it
but
will.
I do agree with you. But whether it's going to be just the Turks, sorry, just the Russians, or going against the Turks, or it's going to be the whole NATO and everybody else jumping
No,
in.
no, no. There's not going to be nobody in the Western world will be a soldier. No, I don't think so.
Well, I don't think that the Turks will remain in NATO for too long. And if
Yeah.
they try to pull out of the Zionist camp,
Okay.
okay, then the
Okay.
Zionist camp will kind of want to bring them down. So
Okay.
it could be on that side. It could be that
I see. I
in the
see.
long run, Turks may kind of make alliance with the Russians
Hmm.
in the long run and go against the NATO.
Well, that's something I would agree with because I think the Russians are going to go south to Arabia, and maybe the Turks will just capitulate without a fight.
Well, let's see what happens.
But back to the fact that the Americans are going to watch this. So the good
Hmm.
life is going to end. Then what are Americans going to do?
True.
I mean, I think they're mostly incompetent. You have this black guy, big black guy, running Secretary of Defense. He's total affirmative action. He's totally incompetent, and the incompetence all over the place. So they,
Hmm.
they don't have the energy. They don't have the energy to pay for anything. It's not going to work. It's a joke. Now it's in the early days. They'll realize. I mean, I just don't see. It's a long way over there, right? It's the Atlantic Ocean all the way over there. It's a long way, yeah.
Hmm.
And they're gonna have to go over there. And I don't. They have equipment over there. They have bases over there, but I don't know. It's kind of a joke,
Okay.
yeah. But I think within a couple of weeks, to go back to what was your second question?
What was my second question about Ukraine?
Oh yeah. Okay. How fast would Ukraine go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think within a couple of weeks it'll be obvious that the Russians are going to be able to basically destroy whatever they want to destroy in Ukraine. They'll have control of Ukraine, and unless these weapons are coming in by land, they'll have total control. Now, fine, the place is going to be destroyed. I think it will be destroyed, and maybe 100,000 dead. But 40 million people, 100,000 dead is nothing.
So let's say that within a couple of weeks, let's say your assumption is correct. Let's
Yeah,
say within a couple of weeks, the Ukraine is conquered,
yeah.
okay, and there's a peace treaty kind of now signed, etc. And Russians have won, etc. What
Hmm.
next?
Hmm.
What next
Well,
after that?
the
Do you
United
see
States,
peace in the world again and sanctions
no,
against
no,
Russia
no,
lifted, or
no.
so
I
what
think
happens
what
after that?
what seems to be possible or likely is that the Americans, dominated by these Ashkenazi, they're going to be furious, that humiliated that they've lost, and they're going to try to stimulate some sort of insurrection, and the Russians will just, wipe out. They'll just wipe them out. So. I don't know what the Americans going to do. They if they want to escalate, they have to be involved themselves. I don't know, involve Poland, like you say. I mean, if they do, I think the Russians will not hesitate to use larger weapons and to attack. They'll probably destroy installations, military installations in Germany and Europe. They'll probably do that.
I don't think they will. Americans will get involved directly so early in the game, but maybe later on, maybe towards
Well,
the end of the.
they're talking
Yeah.
about it. They're
Well,
talking.
the talking is just kind of
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
But
I agree.
I do see the proxy wars kind of no expanding to other countries, to like you said in Germany maybe, and maybe even France.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe
yeah,
even wherever there are Jewish communities, and they
yeah,
will want them
yeah.
uproot them from there and bring them to
Oh, I
Greater
see.
Israel.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's good.
you
Yeah.
can see the expansion of it and going in that direction.
But again, I just look at Naftali Bennett's face.
Mhm.
He looks like he's just pooing in his pants. So it's looks pretty grim. So I don't know about any Jews moving to Israel. I don't think so. I think their grandiose plans are not going to work out. You see,
Okay.
so I don't know. I just don't see that working out. I thought it was amazing that he went over. Probably begging Putin to go easy on the Jews in Ukraine, and Putin probably said, I have no control over that."
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All
Coming to
right.
the end of that interview,
Okay,
do you have
great.
any final thought? Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, the the bourgeois life is really great, right? Professional
Mhm.
people, skilled people, knowledgeable. They know what they're doing. They come to dominate because of their talent. And the Russians, with these Bolshevik Jews, they destroyed any kind of little bourgeois life in Russia, 100 years ago, right?
Mhm.
And then the Nazis, when the Germans went into Russia looking for Jews and trying to kill Jews because Jews were all Bolsheviks. Okay, so the bourgeois life is the fundamental basis of our civilization. And if we eliminate the bourgeois, we're not going to have a civilization. So that's the danger I think that's we're going to be facing. The war will wipe out the bourgeoisie, and everybody else doesn't have the knowledge, doesn't have the skills, doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and it's gonna be poverty and dark age. It's gonna be just gruesome. So it's going to be gruesome. People will be dying like flies. So that's what I want to say. Without the bourgeois knowledge and intelligence and hard work and perseverance and delay of gratification, all this kind of stuff, you're just going to have poverty and brutality and stupidity, and everything's going to go down. I mean, it's all over.
Okay. Maybe those who are listening to Tom Pochari and listening to his advice, they may be saved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm wondering how many people are going to start to realize how potentially dangerous this situation is. I mean, we've got members of Congress, senators. They're all talking about going to war with Russia.
Mhm. Maybe they all got bunkers, somewhere
Yeah,
to run to.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, but it's pretty kooky, pretty kooky. Yeah.
Okay.
And one final statement. I remember reading about when I went to Paris as a young man. I remember reading about the French, and the Allied powers in World War II. Before World War One, they were very much enthusiastic about World War One. Everybody thought, "Hey, we're going to go kick ass," and everybody knows what happened, right?
Yeah, but now a lot of the Americans have been playing video games for too many times,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they don't know
Yeah.
what war is like.
That's true. That's true. But I think there's similarities. When there's a lot of enthusiasm, you got to be really, really worried.
Sure.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Great,
We'll
great
leave it there.
talking.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much,
Yeah.
Tom. And
Talk
I'm
to you
going to
later.
put the link to all your websites in the YouTube video at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll be good.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
All
All
right.
right. Bye
Thank you
bye.
very much. Thank you. See you again.